Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for my rational perspective on Leicester City 0, Chelsea 1. Chelsea make it 5 wins in a row. We're through to the FA Cup semi-final. In truth, that game was quite scrappy. I don't think it contained a lot of great quality. It contained certain moments of quality. But to be honest, in reflection, it's a type of game Chelsea haven't been good at winning this year. Really, when the game isn't going perfectly well for us, we're not at full throttle when we aren't as fluid in our play. I think sometimes we struggle in those types of game, and especially considering the way we played in the first half, I was really impressed with the way Frank changed the team and the way we improved our level and won the game in the second. That team lineup did surprise me. The amount of changes, Frank making 6 changes in total, bringing in Caballero, Reece James, Kurt Zouma, Emerson, Billy Gilmore. Which did interest me, some of those changes, and some of the players that didn't start, like Mateo Kovacic and Jorginho. I found that a bit surprising considering that Frank would make that many changes. And really, for me, Leicester were pressing us hard and Chelsea just did not get going for me at all in that first half, really. I mean, with the exception of one moment from Christian Pulisic, who was, until we left the pitch, for me, Chelsea's best player, probably, in terms of influence. He was absolutely brilliant once again, really positive, really influential. And let's hope that calf injury or knock he had when he went off the pitch isn't very serious, because we're going to need him again. But really, sloppy passing in the centre of the park. Somehow we got into half-time at 0-0 because Leicester had so many opportunities, maybe not clear-cut opportunities, but opportunities to break on us, and they didn't capitalise. And I thought there were certain players in that first half. Billy Gilmore really was the complete opposite of what we saw from him when he played against Liverpool and Everton. In those games, he was mature, he was decisive, he was calm. Complete opposite in these games. He felt rushed, and there were many times hospital balls across the centre of the park for Chelsea, and we looked so muddled, so confused on the ball as well, and we just never got going really, even after the drinks break. There was a little surge after that. I think Pulisic may have had his chance after that, but really Chelsea just looked sloppy. And I've got to be fair that there were a lot of players in that team who haven't played for months on end really, and haven't started in the first 2 games since the Premier League restart. I'll be fair on that. Leicester's press did drop as the half went on, so Chelsea, for me, and certain players just didn't perform up to the required standard. And Frank made that pretty clear by making 3 changes, bringing on Dave, Ross Barkley and Kovacic, and that's where the game changed. And I think, just saying on this, I think it was a massive statement once again by Frank Lampard, and I thought it was the right move. Billy Gilmore, I'm sure maybe would have got an arm around the shoulder, got some good advice, but I think for Reece James as well, I think it's a good lesson in terms of the performances of players that replaced them and how they positively impacted and changed the game for Chelsea and ultimately won it. But also to say for Frank, it's not just what he says in his press conferences, the nice quotes that make us fans happy. It's also the actions. He requires high standards of performance, of application, of dedication. If you're not at those standards for Chelsea, you won't get in the first team. You will be replaced by other players. He wants high standards at Chelsea, just not only with the players he's bringing in the transfer market, like Ziyech, like Werner, like other players this summer. It's also those current crop of players, and it doesn't matter whether we think Reece James is going to be the long-term right back. He still is behind Azpilicueta, and rightly so, because Dave's performance levels at the moment are brilliant. They really are, and that showed in the second half. Reece James has got a long way to go. Billy Gilmore has got a long way to go to replace Mateo Kovacic in that central midfield role. And Ross Barkley, a player who's been doubted a lot this season by me, by many others, still is going to be trusted by Frank Lampard because he had a big impact on that game and was the deciding factor in that game. The second half, I think we really worked well. I think Pulisic, really every time we got the ball was doing something positive, but I felt the runs in behind from midfield, which Lampard wants from the likes of Ross Barkley, really did change the game, and Chelsea were able to get up the pitch, create stuff. And I felt as well Kovacic was a difference, really getting out from that press from Leicester early in the half and getting us up the pitch, linking defence to midfield to attack, which is something Chelsea lacked desperately in that first half. Nothing felt really connected. In the second half it did, and Chelsea started to make inways on Leicester's defence and pressuring them over and over again. And even though once again not many clear-cut chances, I think once that key chance did come through Willian, who wasn't having the best game in terms of touch, he put in a brilliant cross for Ross Barkley, and once again a late run from midfield forward pays the difference. And Ross Barkley with a brilliant finish there on the run, putting it in. Another goal in the FA Cup for him, scored against Liverpool and also scored against Nottingham Forest earlier in the competition. So clearly loves playing in the FA Cup, which is a positive and a great moment for Ross Barkley, because I thought he played well, worked hard against Man City, but it's that end product that's really going to make the difference for Ross if he's going to stay at Chelsea and be a key player for Lampard and get more minutes. He needs to be clinical in the final third, and today he was. He won the game for Chelsea. I just thought some other players that I thought improved in the second half. I thought Kurt Zouma, once again, I think has been very underrated this season. I think his performance today will go underrated because Jamie Vardy, who's given Chelsea problems in the past, basically was non-existent in this game. He had none of the ball really. I can't remember many times he got close to the goal, and I thought that was really impressive from both Kurt Zouma and Rudiger, really nullifying Vardy completely and nullifying, as the game went on, a lot of Leicester's key attackers. And I felt just as the team's performance increased in that second half, I thought that was quite impressive. And I thought the application of certain players defensively, how structured we look, a clean sheet for Chelsea is very impressive and a collector's item this season. So I'm happy to finally have one of those again. But I also just want to talk about Ben Chilwell, because of course there was so much talk about Ben Chilwell. Chilwell being Lampard's first choice, he did not impress me today from an attacking and also defensive output as well. I mean, for that goal, if you look back, I was quite surprised. The ball was from Willian to Dave, and Chilwell just sort of giving up pressing. I think it was Willian for the cross and just allowing Willian to put that cross in, which went for the goal for Barkley. Very poor from Ben Chilwell, and I wonder if Frank will be watching that and Chelsea scouts will be watching that, because I thought it was quite poor from Chilwell, to be honest, and not really an improvement on what we've got defensively from what I've seen from Chilwell today. Of course, that's a very isolated game, of course, and I know there are other games you could look at to show the strengths of Ben Chilwell that I've highlighted on this channel, but he just didn't personally impress me. But in terms of Chelsea, really positive to get to the semi-final of the FA Cup, a real chance of silverware still in Frank Lampard's first season, which I think would be an absolute bonus for Chelsea and for Frank Lampard this season. I think it would be massive. Looking at some of the teams in that semi-final, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be a challenge, but it's exciting to still be in the hat for that competition and that draw, which we'll see hopefully later today who Chelsea will come up against in that semi-final in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I think you've got to be impressed, you've got to be pleased, considering 7 days after the restart, Chelsea winning all 3 games so far, I think has been brilliant. I think the performances in some of those games have been really impressive, especially the Man City game, and I think the sense that Chelsea have been able in the Villa and Leicester games to grind out results is something we haven't seen from Chelsea in the previous months, basically all season. So to see that as we get to the conclusion of this season is, I think, something Chelsea fans should look for, and Frank's strong decision making on team selection and high standards that you want to keep is a thing that I think will benefit Chelsea's squad in the long term. So those are my thoughts on the game. Please let me know yours in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.